Hi guys, William Morris here, and today we're going to be taking a look at Sounds from Beyond, which is a new library from Red Room Audio. So the library is a collection of cinematic sci-fi inspired sounds spread across 9 different categories. The library is made for the full version of Kontakt 6.7.1 or above, and it will take up just over 10 gigabytes of your hard drive space. It's currently on intro pricing at $79, and that will move to a full price of $99. There are some additional discounts available for owners of the other Sounds From libraries. So let's jump in and take a listen. We have 9 different sound categories, each one contained within its own Kontakt patch, as you can see on the left here. So we're starting with the Collisions patch, which is essentially a collection of one-shot hits. The interface is really nice and simple, but has, I think, most of the key sort of functions that you'd want from it. We obviously have a waveform view here. You can alter pitch and speed. There's a step sequencer over in the rhythm tab. You have a basic volume, pan controls, filter, envelope shaping, and a gate here. A nice addition to some of these one-shot patches is that you can change the start and end point of the sample. We're also able to reverse the sample, so we can turn a hit into a riser. And this control here just allows the sound to be delayed so that it will end on a beat. So that's quite nice for synchronizing inside your projects. Okay, let's take a listen to some of these hits. So as you can hear, a bit of a variety there. There's some kind of more organic ones, and then there's some which I think kind of maybe fall into that category of being a bit more of a traditional sci-fi sound, so a bit more bleep bloopy and kind of electronic sounding. I myself sort of err towards liking the organic stuff more, but this is obviously going to vary on what you want to use the library for. One thing I do really like about these collisions is how cool they sound filtered down as booms instead. So what I'll do is just link this filter cutoff to my mod wheel and just give you an idea of some of the sounds. You may notice down at the bottom here where the keys are, there's some that are in yellow instead of the blue for the rest of them. And these are basically just sounds that you can go through and use this button here to highlight as a favorite sound. And I really wish more libraries would have this feature because it's so handy when you've got maybe 30, 40 plus sounds all on individual keys across the keyboard. So yeah, really nice to see that implemented as a feature. All right, let's move on to the next patch now. This is going to be Dreamscapes. And these are now sort of tonal pads, and we can change the key center of a sound with the green keys here. So see, by default, it's on a C. All right, let's take a listen to some of these Dreamscapes. So a really nice mix in there. There's some kind of darker, more disturbing ones, and these sort of dreamier, more beauty of space sort of highlighted ones, which I really like as well. I'll just give you an idea of what changing the key center sounds like. I think this is going to be more something like you select it for a continuous drone or Atmos type thing in the background, rather than using the key centers to change sort of notes so you can play a melodic sequence. Just because, as you can hear, it sort of jumps around a bit. But I think the intention here is to have them more as an Atmos and a drone. All right, so that was the Dreamscapes. Let's take a listen now to the Evolutions. And these are similar to the patch before, but a bit more sort of atonal. And to reflect that, we no longer have the option to change the key center at the bottom. So yeah, some really cool stuff in there. So let's move on to some of these Implosions. And these are all reverses and risers, but with the help of this reverse switch here, we can turn them into hits instead. So hopefully that gives you an idea of some of the reverse sounds. Let's move on to the interference category. And I'd say this is sort of an atmosphere category again, but it's full of these kind of pretty cool sort of machine-like sounds, which are all kind of very glitchy and sort of processed. So let's take a listen. So yeah, almost like electromagnetic interference stuff. All right, so let's move on to the launches and landings category. And I would say these fall into more a transition category of sound. It's really cool, that. So some are quite short, some of them are much longer, but they've all got a kind of envelope of a transition sound, I would say. So a nice kind of transition point on a lot of them. All right, so let's move on and try some of the movements. As I sort of mentioned before, I think this is probably a category that could have been called pulses. Yeah, and all these have been tempo synced as well. I think at the minute we're around 100 BPM. And as you'll see, the key center controls have come back as well. It's really cool, that one. I do like a lot of these, and I like that they've kept a lot of the pulse rhythms quite simple as well. Yeah, really cool stuff. Okay, so let's take a listen to rumbles. And this is kind of a low boom category. Yeah, really cool stuff in here. There's a few kind of the more electronic ones, like I sort of mentioned, that aren't my cup of tea, but they might be perfect for your sort of sci-fi project, if you're maybe going for something which has a bit more of a retro vibe to it, I guess. I'm kind of talking about like sort of sounds like this one. They've just got that sound which I associate with a sort of more retro vibe. All right, so that's some of the rumbles. The final category up is the voices. I'd say this is probably actually one of the biggest categories for the library, and it's a more playable one. So instead of having sounds mapped to individual keys, we have several playable octaves available to us, and changing sound sources is done through this drop-down menu or click-through menu at the top. So as you can see, quite a few different presets in here. You are also able to favorite a lot of these sounds. So it's done by the same button, but obviously you couldn't see the highlighted yellow key for this instance. So instead, the ones in brackets are the favorited patches. So let's have a listen to some of these, starting off on Astral Analog. I love that patch, it's really cool. You might have noticed at the end there that I was continually holding down these two D keys just as an octave below everything, almost kind of using it as a drone. But what happened was basically that it reached the end of the sample and then stopped. And I think it would have been really nice if you could have used all of these keys potentially as drones. So when it hit the end here, it would loop back to the start, and you could basically hold that under as a pad and then play a more sort of melodic part over the top. And I think that's the case with a few other patches in this library, like the Dreamscapes. It would be nice if these sounds would loop around, you know, possibly even with the crossfade to make the transition point not very obvious. Yeah, in terms of sound, I love this one. It's really cool. Feels like a touch kind of Blade Runner-y, but more modern. Yeah, really sort of cool alien sounding stuff, great for sci-fi. Let's try another one I've favorited. Cool as well. They're quite complex sounds, so I found they do sort of benefit from being played quite sparsely. But I love some of the sounds, really cool. Let's move on, try Far From Earth. really nice. I think it's probably my favorite category, to be honest. And it's nice to have, playable stuff alongside the one-shots as well. I will say for this library, it does kind of really feel cohesive in terms of, I feel like you could use a lot of these sounds together in combination and they do really work. Okay, let's take a listen to something else. We have fireflies. Yeah, love that one. I think I could have favorited loads in this category, to be honest, but I just picked out a few. So again, that one kind of cut out at the end just because I'd been holding the sort of drone notes underneath for the full length of the sample. So that's something that would be really nice to have, is just the ability to loop the sample underneath. Let's just do one more. Yeah, really nice. So I hope that's given you a good overview of what the library has to offer. Overall, I found a lot to really enjoy in this library. Just personally, I preferred a lot of the more organic patches as opposed to the sort of slightly retro sounding sci-fi ones. And although a lot of the sounds are sort of geared towards that cinematic sci-fi sound, there's definitely other genres that I think you could use this kind of stuff in. And it does feel really cohesive overall, as I've said. It feels like you could play a lot of these sounds together from the library and they would work really well. I really like the simple interface they have. It's got just enough sort of functionality to do your most common sound sculpting sort of needs. And there's some nice little touches as well, like being able to reverse the sounds and get them to end on certain beats from within the UI. It's a really nice time saver, that, and turns a lot of these categories like the reverses into a hits category, which kind of gives you more bang for your buck as well. Also really nice to see the favorite feature being used again. I think I would have preferred, as I say, maybe a more conventional naming structure for the patch names. So, instead of movements, you'd have pulses. Instead of collisions, you'd have hits, just to make it a bit easier to navigate when you come back to this library after a break. It's also worth mentioning that some of the more pad-like patches will consume a decent amount of RAM if you leave everything fully loaded. So I noticed a lot of them are around the 750 meg to 1 gig sort of size. So what I'd probably do with them is just go through and find what you like, and then you can obviously purge all from Kontakt, and it will probably then reduce the size to almost nothing. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up from me, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this walkthrough and review. If you have any other questions, just let me know in the comments, and if not, I'll see you again on the next one.